Marcus Chin, a 38-year-old janitor at the Grand Thornfield Concert Hall, moved quietly across the vast, echoing stage, polishing the brass rails until they gleamed under the soft golden lights. Dressed in his olive green uniform, he looked like just another member of the maintenance crew, someone invisible to the wealthy patrons who would soon arrive, wrapped in their luxury and laughter. Yet beneath that modest appearance lived a man once filled with dreams far brighter than the chandeliers above him. Years ago, Marcus had studied at one of the nation's top conservatories, his fingers once trained to draw emotion from piano keys rather than dust from velvet seats. But life, in its unforgiving way, had rewritten his path. After the tragic death of his wife, he had traded concert halls for cleaning shifts, choosing security for his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, over the uncertain promise of fame. As he worked, he often found himself glancing at the grand Steinway on stage, a mirror to his past and a silent reminder of what once was. The music still lived inside him, dormant but alive, waiting for the one moment when life would give him permission to let it breathe again. The Thornfield Foundation Gala was no ordinary evening. It was the most prestigious night of the year, drawing the city's most powerful figures under one glittering roof. The chandeliers sparkled like constellations, the air filled with soft laughter, and the scent of expensive perfume lingered over the crimson carpets. Marcus moved quietly among them, ensuring every corner of the hall shone to perfection. From behind the stage curtains, he watched tuxedos and sequined gowns glide through the entrance, their conversations blending into a hum of privilege and ease. For them, this was a night of celebration. For Marcus, it was just another shift to make sure the beauty of the event never showed the effort behind it. Yet, as he wiped the last smudge from the grand piano, his eyes lingered on the instrument longer than usual. The polished keys reflected his tired face, and for a fleeting second he imagined himself sitting there, performing for a crowd that actually came to listen. That quiet ache returned, part longing, part resignation. He had once been on that path, but now he was merely the man preparing the stage for others to live the dream he had left behind. As Marcus was finishing his final task, James Wellington, the confident and silver-haired chairman of the Thornfield Foundation, strode across the stage with the commanding air of a man used to being admired. Spotting Marcus near the piano, he smiled with mild amusement and asked if he could play a tune. The question caught Marcus off guard, but before he could answer, Wellington turned to the small group of guests nearby and announced, "Our janitor here says he knows how to play the piano. Shall we have a little preview before the concert begins?" Laughter rippled through the hall, polite yet tinged with condescension. Marcus felt the weight of their expectations. No one believed he could play. They simply wanted to be entertained by his awkwardness. His first instinct was to refuse, to step back into the safety of invisibility. But as he looked at their amused faces, something stirred deep within him, a quiet defiance, the echo of the man he once was. Slowly, he walked toward the piano, each step heavy but deliberate. Sitting at the bench, he took a steadying breath, resting his fingers lightly on the keys. He had nothing to prove, yet everything to remember. And in that moment, silence filled the hall. The moment Marcus's fingers touched the keys, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. The laughter that had echoed moments before dissolved into stunned silence as the first delicate notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major floated through the air. His movements were fluid, effortless, each keystroke a whisper of emotion drawn from the depths of his soul. The music swelled and softened, telling a story of love, loss, and resilience that words could never fully express. The audience once amused and dismissive, now sat motionless, transfixed by the haunting beauty that filled the room. Even Wellington, who had started this impromptu performance as a joke, felt his heart tighten as he realized he was witnessing something rare, a man reclaiming a piece of himself. For Marcus, the music was more than sound. It was memory. It was healing. Every note carried echoes of his late wife, every pause a reminder of nights he'd spent playing lullabies to his daughter. He had not performed in years, yet now, under the glow of the stage lights, it was as if the piano had been waiting for his touch all along. And when the final chord lingered in the air, the silence that followed spoke louder than applause ever could. When the final note faded, the silence that followed was almost sacred. Then, as if awakening from a trance, the audience erupted into applause that grew into a standing ovation. For the first time in years, Marcus stood before a crowd not as a janitor, but as the artist he had once been. James Wellington climbed onto the stage, his earlier smirk replaced by genuine awe. He asked softly, "Where did you learn to play like that?" Marcus hesitated before answering, his voice steady yet full of quiet pain. He explained that he had studied at the New England Conservatory and once pursued a career as a concert pianist until life changed abruptly after his wife's tragic accident. With a 6-year-old daughter to raise alone, he had given up the stage for a stable income and predictable hours. The audience, still moved by his performance, listened with deep respect. Wellington, visibly humbled, asked Marcus to play one more piece, this time by choice. Marcus nodded and began Bach's air on the G string, Emma's favorite lullaby. The music filled the hall with warmth and longing, touching something deeply human within everyone present. Even Wellington found himself blinking back tears, reminded of his own children and the quiet sacrifices that love demands. When the last note of Bach's melody faded into the stillness, the applause that followed carried something deeper than admiration. It was gratitude, reverence, and awe. James Wellington stepped forward once again, his voice filled with emotion as he announced that the Thornfield Foundation would create a special program to support artists like Marcus, ensuring that talent would never again be buried beneath circumstance. He offered Marcus the chance to return to the stage, to rebuild the career he had once sacrificed while providing security for his daughter. Marcus stood speechless, tears welling in his eyes as he realized life was giving him a second chance, one that honored both his music and his fatherhood. Months later, the transformation was complete. Marcus now performed with the city's symphony, his hands no longer cleaning the stage but commanding it. In the front row, little Emma sat proudly, her face glowing with pride as she watched her father play. The photograph from that first night still hung in Wellington's office, a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight. And for Marcus, the true standing ovation was not the applause of strangers but the smile of his daughter, who knew her father had never stopped playing for her.